right, folks, the music has ended. That could mean one thing. You are back with the boys of Boom, the BoomBastiCAST. Myself, Mathew, and my brother from another mother, Alexander the Great, doing it big in another episode. We got a hot guest with you this evening. Fresh off the, what do you call that? Fresh off the racks, I guess we'll go. The great Adam Carl is joining us, and Adam's just been killing it, dude. He's been in TV, movies, theater, dude. The guy's just killing it. Some of the best TV shows ever to hit your eyelids. You know what I mean? Some legendary films. Donatello, the voice of Donatello and Secret of the Ooze, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. You know what I mean? You can watch this with the double feature this episode with Kevin Eastman, good friend of the show. I know the chef out there is going to be digging on this episode. Gigantic Ninja Turtles fan. Yeah, Adam's a really cool dude. The Hawkman brought him to the show. We're both fans. And it was really cool to kind of have him on the show. Nice, super nice guy. Sit down. We talked about a lot of stuff. A filmmaker in his own right. You know, we always love having folks on the show that are filmmakers as well, because then we can tap into, you know, the behind the scenes workings. You know what I mean? Adam was a child actor all the way up to the teen years. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's cool. I love having folks like Adam on because we get to talk about shows that we loved, television and movie shows, no, movies, and television shows. I'm over the hill. You know what I mean? Not just in age, but with excitement. And I've been looking forward to this ever since I heard we were going to get him on. And one of my favorite parts of interviews is when you get them on and they're great guys, which Adam is. And do you want to say anything before we roll up into this app?
Not much. Just that, yeah. I mean, one of the big things we're going to get into is the whole, child actor situation. I
Uh-huh.
mean, the fact is that there's a lot of actors who start out as children and then become huge stars. I mean,
Yes.
Jodie Foster is a perfect example. I mean, you'll have those who are more of the supporting child stars that transition. And Adam was one of those. I mean, as he says in this, that he's like a child character actor, and that's the kind of role that he did, and he was really good and a lot of fun. And talking about the whole situation of dealing with schoolwork and then then working as an actor, and then of course dealing with the producers that want you to kind of bend the rules a little bit. Come on, we need you for another like 10 to 20 hours. So yeah, how about you just clock out, but not really clock out? Like those shady bosses you have, where it's like, how about you clock out so I don't pay you, but be here for another like 5 hours to get the job done. We all know those type of people, right?
Yeah, Alex Hawk is one of them.
One of those that is asked to stay but decides not to.
Now, from what I hear over at Hawk Industries, that you ride people pretty hard. No pizza Fridays. No appreciation. All right.
Man, if people are listening to this, they'll run away when they see me. They think I'm a monster.
Hawk Industries has been on every news program that I can think of, just being drawn through the mud. And even when they get the mud on them, it's the best they ever looked. That's what I heard. With that being said, let's not talk about bad things like Hawk Industries. Let's talk about good things like Adam Carl and his journey in the world of entertainment. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, and there'll be more time, welcome Adam Carl to the BoomBastiCast. Adam, welcome to the
Thank you. Thank you for
BoomBastic.
having me.
Oh, dude, anytime. It's a pleasure. We've been looking forward to this sit down. You know what I mean? It's going to be fun. You've been a part of a lot of really cool stuff. And us being, children of the 80s and 90s, you're a part of our childhood and teenage years. You know what I mean?
Can I ask how old you guys actually are?
I'm a young 42, and
Okay,
And
Alan,
you
I'm an old 44. So
that's right, yeah.
So I got 10 years, 12 years on you guys. I'm 54, almost 55, so I'm
Well, what's in a number? You know what I
a
mean?
tad older,
Yeah, no big, no big.
But I'm sure that most of the pop culture references are the same.
Oh yeah,
Um, Although I'm always surprised because like my wife is your guy's age. She's and
congrats.
I'm always surprised. I always assume she's gonna like there are certain things that her generation, your generation just missed a little bit.
Yeah,
Even if it's just like a breakfast cereal or a commercial or something that was like really big at the time, and she's like, no idea what you're talking about. So,
it's
few of
it's
those.
it's interesting because it's almost like the going back to looking at older stuff I think might be lost because like when I was like late 80s, early 90s, like I'd go back and look at like for older shows. I don't know if the newer generation goes back to look for older shows, you know what I mean? Like Gilligan's Island, I'd watch when it was way beyond me. Batman, with Adam West
Oh,
before
for
my time.
sure.
Before my time, but I'd go back looking for it and stuff, you know. I don't
And I
think,
think that was true even for me
you know,
too as a kid. Like when I would stay home sick from school, all the shows was watching, like I was a huge Bewitched fan,
hell yeah.
but it was really like it had been off the air. It was all just, syndication. Um, but to me, it was like it was still on, I didn't know. Um, so yes, but yeah, maybe there is a generation that doesn't go back and like seek it out. I don't know.
They might not even seek out their current shows.
That's
You know what
true.
I
That's
mean?
true.
So it's a YouTube generation, so to speak. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So we usually start with where it all started for you. Now I know that your mother was a studio teacher, right?
She was, but she didn't get into that until later. She
Okay.
actually got into studio teaching because of me,
Oh, okay.
as opposed to the other way around. So I am not a Nepo baby, in case anyone was worried.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say,
It's that very famous studio teacher to child actor pipeline,
yeah, yeah.
Uh, no, so I was the first of my family to be born in Southern California. My family came out here from the East Coast the year I was born. And my dad got a job in Orange County, California, which in the 80s, it's only, 45 minutes from Los Angeles, but in the 80s it was known as behind the orange curtain because it was like super conservative,
Hmm.
super Republican area. We were not that, but that's where I grew up, in Tustin, California, which is, about 10 minutes east of Disneyland, if you know the area at all. And I grew up there, and when I wanted to become like a child actor, my parents were like completely flabbergasted. They were like, they didn't know where this was coming from. But they were supportive. And one day there was an ad in the newspaper in the LA Times for an open call for like a 20th Century Fox movie. And my dad saw it like, over breakfast reading the paper. He saw this thing and he's like, "Hey, they're having this open call. They're looking for like, 12-year-old kids. That it sounds like a perfect description for you. We should go." And my mom was super nervous about it because she was really worried that I was going to like feel this like rejection. I wasn't going to get the part and I was going to be devastated. And I assured her that I wouldn't care if I didn't get it, but that I really did want to go to the
Right.
thing. So my dad drove me up to this audition, and it was a weekend. It was a day that I had like a little league game later in the day. So I literally am wearing my like Pittsburgh Pirates, little league like uniform to the audition because I had to get right back to Orange County for the game later. And we get there, and it's just like a true cattle call. I mean, it's just like hundreds and hundreds of kids waiting around. And they took us in like seven at a time and sat us at like these long tables, like on a sound stage, and just started like interviewing. Okay, what's your name? How old are you? Who's your favorite actor? Like, what's your favorite movie? And just like talking to us. And then that was the whole thing. And then there were going to be callbacks. And when you filled out the paperwork, they told you to put down like who your agent is. I didn't have an agent, but I had a sixth grade teacher whose son was like an adult actor in LA and had an agent. And so my sixth grade teacher said, listen, if they ask you who your agent is, just put down my son's agent's name and number. I was like, okay. So I do this. And then one day I come home from school and my mom is like, we got a phone call from some agent in Los Angeles and you need to call him and apologize. And I was like, oh God. And essentially this agent was like, he called and was like, said to my mom, like, I don't know who you are. I don't represent children, but your kid has a callback.
Yeah.
And so I had to call, my mom made me call him and like apologize. I'm sorry, I was told to put down your phone number, but he thought it was hilarious. And he's like, look, I will like represent you through this process. And he says, listen, maybe you'll be my little experiment. I'll represent a kid. And if it doesn't work, then I'll refer you to some kids agents. But let's try it. And I got this callback, and then I just kept getting callback after callback after callback, and pretty soon, 20th Century Fox was like messengering scripts to my house in Orange County, to prepare me for a screen test. And this was for a movie called The Buddy System, and it was Richard Dreyfuss and Susan Sarandon, and it was kind of like a knockoff of like The Goodbye Girl. It's sort of like a Neil Simon-esque kind of like romantic comedy.
Yeah.
And it was really, I got down to the wire on it, and it was between me and one other kid, and we did this whole screen test at 20th Century Fox, and they took, several weeks to make a decision, and I didn't get it. And the part went to Will Wheaton,
Okay.
and he was great, and it was perfect because it was to play Susan Sarandon's son, and not Dreyfuss's son. And clearly, I mean, let's be honest,
Yeah.
it would have been confusing.
Yeah.
So Will got it, and he was great. The movie was not great, did not do well. But a few weeks later, they called and offered me the part of like one of his like school friends in a Thanksgiving pageant. So I played an ear of corn in a Thanksgiving pageant. Um, uh, Jason Hervey, who you guys might know from everything. He played a potato. And,
Alex
it was,
played a bush once.
huh?
Alex over here played a bush once in a school.
That you were a bush? You
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
understand?
I was a bush. I was an elephant. I was anything that they're willing to give me.
I mean, listen, if you think about like Dustin Hoffman and Tootsie talking about playing a tomato, it's a whole thing. So we come from a long, line of
So great.
produce. But yeah, so I got to play the ear of corn. So that was like my auspicious beginning was that. And then pretty much this agent just started sending me out for stuff, and I just started booking things. And eventually he did refer me to like a legit, kids agent. And I pretty much just worked pretty steadily from that point on until I was, uh, in my, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Um, and then I wasn't a cute kid who could read anymore, so I stopped working because, actors were actually good once I was an adult. Um, so
It's a tough,
that's
you hear a lot about the, child actors. I mean, I know you said your parents were kind of hesitant about the disappointment of it. I mean, there'd be way more things to be hesitant about putting your kid in, show
yeah.
business later to
Oh
come.
yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
I got lucky. I mean, I really did. Like my parents were really on top of things. And again, like I said, like my mom then ultimately like she befriended a bunch of my studio teachers and she was a teacher, so they convinced her that she should start doing this. And she ended up having a great career as a
Yeah.
studio teacher. She was Haley Joel Osment's teacher for a really long time, and she like traveled the world with him, and it was very cool. So it was fun to see her later in life have that career of her own, where she was sort of this beloved studio teacher. Um, like worked with Spielberg. I'm like, how is it that my mother has worked with Spielberg like three times and I've never even met the man?
Yeah.
Like,
Spielberg,
but
Coppola, Zemeckis, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Heavyweight.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So that was my start, and my parents were great. My parents basically I'll never forget this. My parents basically sat me down and said, we will do this and we will support you. We will drive you to LA for auditions and all this stuff. The minute it becomes more fun for us than it is for you, you're done. And I thought that was a really great thing that they said to me. And I can assure you it never became more fun for them than it did for
Yeah.
me. So luckily, I did not have to be done. But it was great. I mean, they were really on top of things. And so I never really, I mean, I was around a lot of very tragic stories of kids who were being exploited, either by their parents or by their managers, or they were falling into a bad scene. Um, and I really was sort of lucky that I never fell into any of that. Um, I was just on the periphery of it.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely had a good a good outlook on it, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think some of the kids that get lost in it, I think their parents are just like, let them run away with Hollywood. Like Hollywood will take care of you, but like
Right.
Hollywood is a beast no matter what age you are, you know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. And like my parents, like they were scrupulous about like we are not going to touch a dime of your money, And it was very important to them to like put it away for like they thought it would be for college. Oh, poor sad parents. And then but they just they wouldn't touch a dime of it, which was great. So I squandered it instead of them. But
So you got your California agent, he was plugging you into. I know you get a lot of like really cool TV shows that I grew up watching.
yeah, I did. I started just doing a lot of like TV sitcom stuff. And listen, I think when you're a kid, if you, especially back then, the pool was pretty small
Yeah.
of kids in the industry. And if you could read, and you could, especially, I think the one thing that well, there were a couple of reasons I think I worked. I think it's because I could cold read. I could look at a script, a couple minutes before the audition, and I didn't need to like work on it with my parents or a coach. I understood what the point of the scene was
Hmm.
and how to read and how to do the line readings. I got it. And so that was, I think, a benefit. A lot of kids I can remember like sitting there like drilling these lines over and over and over with their parents, oftentimes who were not right about what about the choices that they wanted their kids to make in these scenes. And I could just read it. And I could read it in the way, like I could read the line as I knew the writer intended it to be read. And I was like charactery looking, so I could play nerds and things like that. So I think those two things, the charactery look, and the ability to sort of cold read at an audition, I think was why I worked. It wasn't because I was so great. And I think I had a sense of like comic timing. So
Yeah.
that helped for because I did mostly like sitcom kind of stuff. Um, my first one was Benson,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
which is I always say when anyone looks at my resume, they assume I'm like 87 because they're like Benson. The
Yeah.
fuck they assume I must be like lying on my resume or really old. The answer is really old. Um, and that was great because I had just so Rene Auberjonois, the great legendary actor Rene Auberjonois who played Clayton on Benson. I had just done Shakespeare with him at the Music Center in Los Angeles. That my very first play as a child, like professional, equity play, was doing Richard III at the Mark Tipper Forum when I was like 12 years old,
Nice.
and he played Richard. And so then I just got this part, doing a scene on Benson, and it was with him. So that was like the perfect introduction to like doing TV because I'd never done it before and I would have probably been overwhelmed. But I knew him well and he was there to like guide me through it. And it was like the perfect, beginning. And then, yeah, it was things like Family Ties and Cheers and, sort of like those classic 80s
Yeah.
sitcoms.
I love Cheers has got to be up there in my top three, probably in the
Cheers
one
was
and
great.
two of favorite shows of all. I watch it every year. I cruise through the series every year.
Wow.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, we're Bostonians too. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
sure, of course.
Got
Of course.
special place in our heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like, Sam Malone would never have to buy himself a drink in Boston,
No, 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 no. Well, even though Sam Malone's off the drink, he's not on the drink anymore. So
That's true.
he
But I
drinks
remember
like,
like, every scene, I'm sure you've noticed this. Like
yeah,
in almost every scene, Ted Danson is like drinking a soda or whatever.
yeah,
He
yeah,
always has like a little bottle of thing in his, like
yeah, yeah. He's
um
the
that
pride.
was a fun show to work on. Everyone was very cool, very nice to me. My one story from
Yeah,
that I can remember, and I'm going to tell it 'cause I don't give a shit. You know
hell
what?
yeah.
They can sue me.
Okay.
I just remember at the time, this is the tape night. So like we've been working the whole week, first day table read, then you start getting into the blocking and you're doing run throughs and then on the day of the taping, usually you would tape it twice, like once before dinner with no audience, then go and have dinner, come back, and then there'd be an audience, and you do a second time. And I remember that before the evening like live performance, I just remember I remember Kelsey Grammer running around to the other cast members, like, like Woody and some of the other people, and being like, parties in my dressing room in 5 minutes, parties in my dressing room in 5 minutes. And just going over parties in my dressing room in 5 minutes. And he gets to me and he's like, sorry, kid, not your kind of party. And I was like, copy that.
Nice.
And so that's my memory of being on Cheers.
Yeah,
You should have said that. Well, I'm older than I look.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
exactly. Like,
Stunted.
listen, I am in my early 20s, sir. Yeah, this is why I work.
Yeah.
Um,
And you were in
Oh,
the
by the way, I do think that's another reason I worked as a kid is because I looked so much younger. For so long, I looked so much younger than I was that I could play younger with like longer working hours and things like that. So
yeah.
that was a whole other aspect of it.
What is your like typical routine when you're a child actor? Like you come in, you go into wardrobe, you go to like the teaching, and then you wait on what they allow you to
Yeah,
wait, what's going on, or
that's generally what would happen is they oftentimes would call you in, earlier than they would need you because they know you have to do 3 hours of school.
yeah,
And it doesn't have to be 3 hours straight. It's just 3 hours over the course of the workday. Usually in like on a minimum of like a 20-minute chunk. Like you can't do like 5 minutes and then go out. Like at least a good solid 20 minutes and then you can go back and forth. And that's what usually would happen. Like you'd come in and they would like, that you'd get signed in, you'd get some breakfast or whatever. Maybe you'd rehearse, maybe you'd get into like, hair and makeup, or they would save that for later and then they would just send you off to school. Okay, okay, go do your school. And they'd get as much time in as you could get in. And you could also bank time. So like if you did 5 hours that day instead of three, those 2 hours could roll over to the next day and you can
yeah.
like do a little bit less. So there's a whole banking time system too. But yeah, you'd go in and just get as much as you could do, and then they would just call you when they needed you. And if they finished and they said, well, we're going to need you again in like 20 minutes, don't go back to school. It's not worth it. But if they knew they were going to need you for a while, they'd send you back to school for as long as they could and just try to get that done.
And they
Um,
would they legally they have to make sure you get those 3 hours, right?
those 3 hours.
Was there
Yeah.
ever any like cutting corners like we really need them, we really need them,
Oh,
like
there were.
yeah,
And it's really interesting. Like there were there were things that would happen. Like they would try. Like,
yeah,
producers, direct ADs would try. And it all depended on your parents and the studio teacher you had. So my mom was famous for like not letting
that
producers like exploit the children.
yeah,
And I remember she told the story of when she was working on Walker, Texas Ranger. And she was like Haley's teacher on that. She heard afterwards from someone on the crew that when she was done and they were like sending her back to LA because the people at the production office like ripped up her resume and threw it up like confetti. Were so excited that she was gone because she would just say things to them like, "You're not going to make your day on the back of a child,
right.
so figure out some other way, the other thing to cut, but it's not going to be the kid that you're going to keep around longer than you should." And she obviously had the support of his parents to do that. So it wasn't like they were undermining her, you know.
Right.
There were teachers who were very like strict about because they're also the wealth. They don't technically work for the production company. They technically work for the state of California,
Okay.
and production company has to, hire them and pay them, but it's the loyalty is to the state.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so they are also the welfare worker, and they are there on the set watching to make sure you're not doing anything dangerous, you're not being exploited, you're not working longer than the hours that you should. So even when the school part is done, they are still there observing everything as the state appointed, welfare worker. So there were some times when there were some corners being cut, especially after I turned 16.
Yeah.
Because when you turned 16, the law changed. And then you could work slightly longer hours and you didn't need the welfare worker. So when school was over, the teacher could go home and you could be on the set without them. And that's when some producers would try to like take advantage. And I remember like one particular show that I did. It was one of those like Disney Sunday movies. I don't know if you remember those. This was on
Oh
ABC
yeah.
back in the 80s every Sunday. And like Michael Eisner would like introduce each one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, and actually ended up doing three of them. And on one of them in particular, uh, the production was a mess and the director was an asshole. And
Yeah.
they, at some point, like after the teacher left, they came to me and they were like, listen, the director wants to know if you'll like stick around and like maybe like keep going. You know, we'll sign you out on the SAG sign out sheet, but then you'll actually stick around and keep working. And, I was 16. I was an unbelievably arrogant little asshole. And I hated this guy, this director. And I was like, not only am I not going to do that, but you're lucky I don't shut you down for asking.
Yeah.
Tell him, go back and tell him that.
Yeah.
Like I was such a little dick. But this was after like the whole Twilight Zone. I think I actually invoked that because it was after the whole Twilight Zone, disaster. And I said, go back to the director and say two words to him, Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And that AD was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to say that to him. I'm like, well, that's your call. You can decide what to say to him, but I'm not sticking around. But like they would try, and I think a lot of kids would do it, and a lot of parents would be like, just do it, don't make waves, just stay and keep working. But I knew because my mom and I just knew all the laws and everything. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that.
Twilight Zone popped in my head for sure with that after hours stuff. Did
It
a lot of
was
things kind of change when that happened?
it was such a big deal at the time. And that's when things really started to crack down, and the welfare workers really started to crack down. The state was horrified, the whole thing. So producers were on their best behavior for quite some time after that. Um,
Yeah, that was
but
a
yeah,
wild deal.
it was crazy. But they would often, like to your point, that yes, they would oftentimes try to cut corners with the kids.
Yeah, it was.
And I think they got away with it a lot.
Well, I don't think anything ever happened really to Landis. I mean, he had his
No.
the court and stuff, and it was a lot on him, even though he was
There
hit.
was a trial, and I remember him just like I remember being so annoyed because like he like smirked his way through the entire trial.
Oh yeah,
And I just remember him sitting there smirking and it infuriating me.
yeah,
Um, and years later, I want to say like late 90s. Um, I was I think it was Photochem, maybe or Technicolor, one of those like post-production film labs in LA. Because I had made this little indie movie and we were color correcting it. And he must have been there with a movie or something. And he asked me where the bathroom was. He stopped in the hallway. He's like, hey, do you know where the bathroom is? And I just looked and I was like, I just was like, I froze. I wanted to say something really
yeah,
shit so badly. And I was just like, oh yeah, it's just right around there. I mean, I told him where the bathroom was.
yeah.
I completely pussied out. But like, I really was just like, oh, I should have said something. I should have said something really shitty to him about, chopping kids' heads off with a helicopter
It's right
blade.
underneath the helicopter
It's
over
under
there.
the
Yeah,
house.
yeah, exactly. Oh, like this is the kind of thing. It's like you think about it on the way home. You're like,
Yeah,
that's what I should have said. You
yeah.
know.
It sucked.
Uh,
I mean, I've met him before at a convention. He's a nice enough guy, and his body of
sure.
work. A lot of those are classics, but
I mean,
I
come
did it.
on.
Yeah, I did a deep dive on him once about that situation and like watched like the press conferences and news stuff, and he's such like he cares more about like his career than the people that died in it.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's
Did
kind of rough
you
to watch.
did he direct Blues Brothers?
He did, yeah.
He did. So Blues Brothers and right, Coming to America,
I think Trading
he
Places was his
Trading
follow-up, was
Places.
the follow-up to the
It's
tragedy. Yeah.
that was the
That was
after.
right after the tragedy with Trading
Ah,
Places. Yeah.
I love that movie.
Classic
I
film.
know.
You know what I
And I
mean?
think that wasn't there something with his son?
Well, his
I'm pretty
son's
sure
bad news, dude. His son,
yeah.
talk about Nepo kids, dude. That's
And there was like a whole like Me Too like cancellation thing, right?
yeah,
Like
he
he
was
really
like
like
beating girls up because they didn't want to have
ugh,
sex with him and stuff.
listen, great family.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
His son's kind of a weirdo. I think his son did like he's a writer. That's like his whole thing is he's a writer. But
Right.
he disappeared since the cancel. Even though I think he's writing and maybe directing, they're doing an American Werewolf in London reboot, and I think his son's involved with that.
Jesus Christ. What a world.
Yeah, there's no escape, you know. Landis has
I
always
know.
had that weird. You like him, but like he always has that cocky attitude about him,
Yeah.
and his
Yeah,
son has it.
there's an arrogance.
Yeah, and the son has it, but the son's done like nothing even comparable to what the father did. You know what I mean? Like talent
Well,
Oh
wise.
my God.
what I would have to say about John is it's the same feeling I have with a lot of creatives that there are those that make great work, but themselves are not great.
Yeah,
Right.
Put John Landis in that category. I do not
Sure.
have a lot of respect for him as a person. I
Right.
have respect for his body of work. He has made some classics, and I will
Absolutely.
not take that away from him. But as a person, he is shit. I mean,
well,
I think that's right. I think that's
yeah.
right.
I mean,
Um,
yeah.
Conversely, there were a couple of guys I met over the course of my like childhood that I thought were really great guys. I mean, I didn't obviously know them well. I was a kid, whatever. But I've always got Joe Dante, for example.
absolutely. Yes,
He was such a sweetheart, as I recall. So I auditioned for. Um, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Explorers.
of course. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So Explorers was a, at the time it was I thought it was gonna be this huge movie, big deal. I really wanted the part, and I thought it was like down to the wire, and I really thought I had it. And then at the last second, they were like, "No, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do like a screen test," and like it was a full on 35 millimeter camera screen test, like on a sound stage kind of thing. And I was like, "This is like really intense."
yeah,
And as I recall, like Jeffrey Katzenberg was there, like, but this was like before he was like a household name. Um, and it was me and River Phoenix, and it was for the same part. This Wolfgang who was like the nerd or whatever. And they were really weird about us. Like I remember they like kept us apart the whole day. Like they didn't want us to be in the same room hanging out together. I don't even know why. That was weird.
yeah.
I remember like being in the same room with like his mom and sister or something. It was all the whole thing was very weird. Looking back on it, if I saw a videotape of it, like Joaquin was probably there, like
Yeah.
a little kid sitting with his mother. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
had no idea. Like, but it was I remember we had the screen test, whatever. River gets the part. What I found out later was, I think this is the story. Basically, like they had this cast and it was going to be like, me and River and this kid Jason Preston who ended up doing the movie as well. And then at some point, the cast directors were like, "We found this kid in New Jersey. He's amazing. You guys have to see him." And the producers did see him and they loved him. And they're like, "But he would be this part. He would basically be River's part." So like maybe we have River play the nerd. And everyone's like, well, can River pull that off? Can River be the nerd? So it was just like basically
Yeah.
like they like did the screen and they were like, yeah, River can be the nerd. And so like they were like, I was the odd man out. Like basically like they just shifted the parts.
Yeah.
And it was Ethan Hawke was the kid that
Okay.
they so they were like, Ethan got the part that River would have done. River did the part that I was gonna do, and I was out. That's sort of how I remember the story being told to me.
Yeah, Rivers
Um,
is such an interesting actor. So that's a tragedy and a half too, dude, that he went so
Terrible.
young. But he was a dude that could play like sex symbol, nerd,
Right. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
junkie, like
Totally.
and yeah, dude, incredible.
Yeah, so that was my I was but then speaking of Summer Camp Nightmare, around that
Yeah.
time, which I know you've seen,
Hmm.
around that time, I auditioned for an episode of they had rebooted the Twilight Zone, the new Twilight Zone, and Joe
Yeah.
Dante was directing an episode of that. So I went in for that, and I walk into a room full of like, producers and executives or whomever, and Joe, and he goes, Adam. I said, Joe, we've been through that whole process with the other thing,
Yeah.
and he looked at everyone and he goes, because they were all like, oh, you know each other, and he goes, Adam came this close to doing Explorers. And then he said, don't worry, kid. It wouldn't have done shit for your career. So he had that kind of very like self-aware gallows humor about the fact that the film had not done so well. But he was and then I actually got that part on the Twilight Zone. And then, but at the same time, the last day of shooting of Summer Camp Nightmare was going to be the first day of shooting of Twilight Zone, or vice versa. And Summer Camp Nightmare wouldn't release me for that one day, so I had to pass on the Twilight Zone thing.
Yikes.
So I never did actually end up working with Joe, but he was I thought a really lovely guy.
Yeah, he seems like a sweetheart, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's always the most unintimidating person that I've ever seen of that caliber of filmmaker, you know what I mean?
Serious, like that's the thing that drives me crazy is because you see guys like that,
Yeah.
and there are I think plenty of guys who like are legendary filmmakers who seem like really decent human beings. I think even Scorsese to me feels that way
Yeah.
in a way that then you see like a David O. Russell and you're like, why? Why do you have to be a screamer? Why do you have to be an asshole? Like nobody, you don't need to do that to be a genius,
Right.
Like chill out, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he was shooting a lot of stuff over in Massachusetts a while back, and I remember him and like there's video of like him yelling at Susan Sarandon or something like that that came out, and he's just
Well, there was that whole thing of him and Lily Tomlin
okay.
like screaming at each other.
Yeah.
It's just kind of amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a weird character.
yeah.
The films aren't even as good to kind of I can
Well, hey,
understand. Yeah, I can understand like if there's going to be some riffing on set to some masterpiece film that like you needed to go to a certain place for it
I
or whatever.
guess.
But like, yeah,
I
me and
guess.
Alex differ on that too, because like the old fashioned way of like directors where they would like get you like pissed or like whatever just to like and then do this.
Whatever Stanley Kubrick did to Shelley
That's
Duvall, right?
right. It's
Like try to break her down. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm more of like the director side of the team, and Hauck is the actor, Alec, my boy here. And I
Yeah.
love Kubrick, and like we always talk about like, was it too much? And it's like, I don't know. It's like you're
Well,
working.
my personal opinion, especially when it comes to if a director is going to cast an actor or an actress for a role,
Yeah,
that director should have enough faith in that person that they will get to that. I mean, he can definitely give advice. He can say, think of this and all that. But getting to a point where you got almost putting someone in like post traumatic stress disorder
Yeah.
for it is not needed. I mean, the
Right.
fact is, if we're actors at that level, okay, we can get there. You can
Right.
nudge us and all that, but don't come at me and get all in my face because that's just going to make me piss and make me walk off set. I
Right.
mean, that's not going to get me.
I'm Team Hawk on this one. Like I don't I
one for the Hawk, man.
I can't do the whole like, to me it's just like you're infantilizing grown-ups. Like I mean, I guess it's a one thing if like you're a kid and you're a director and you think like, how do I get this emotion out of this kid? Maybe I'll scare them or I'll do something. But like we're grown up. Like you said, we're
Yeah,
grown-ups. Don't treat me like I'm a child.
yeah.
Like don't fuck with me. You know, you hired me for a reason. Like don't. Um, but I don't know if I mean maybe it was an apocryphal story. I'm sure you guys have heard it, but like apparently like what Kubrick did to her like on day one was like he gathered the crew together in front of her for like his big opening speech. He's like, okay, everyone here knows that Shelley was not the person I wanted for
Oh,
for this
really?
role, but she's here. So let's all treat her with kindness. Like it was like one of those things, and he did it in front of her, like just to like start to like fuck with her and break her down.
My opinion on that would be, uh,
Uh-oh.
I've never seen that, but I in the footage I've seen
Yeah.
of behind the scenes of it, they both kind of are aggravating each other.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say this. By the time Kubrick got to The Shining, I don't think he was working with actors he didn't want to work with. You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Well,
Like
no,
anybody.
I think he was just saying that to fuck with
Oh,
her
well,
in
yeah,
front of
I
everyone.
could see that.
But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just trying to get in her head, you know.
Yeah, no.
I worked with her. I mean, I didn't really work with her. I did an episode of a show that she produced called Shelley Duvall's Tall Tales and Legends,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
fairy tale theater. You know, she had this whole
Classic.
thing.
Yeah.
And so she would like introduce the episode, you know, like do a little intro. So I only met her on that day that she came to do the intro. And she like introduced herself to me, and I wish I'd known more at the time because I was a kid. You know, if I had the presence of mind to be like, listen, I've got questions.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this Kubrick stuff.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, I was just like, nice to meet you. And that was the whole thing, you know.
I would love to hear like her side of it. You know what I
I
mean?
know. I'm sure she's talked about it, but I don't really know, you
People
know.
didn't want to talk about Stanley negatively for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because of the weight of who he was. The only actor I've ever really heard talk bad about Kubrick, Bad Lieutenant Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel was,
Interesting.
yeah, he was supposed to be in Eyes Wide Shut playing,
Yeah, it was played by Sidney Pollack,
yeah,
Yeah.
Sidney Pollack. That's what it
right?
was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess that was supposed to be Keitel was supposed to play that part, and that him and Kubrick just didn't mash up. They had meetings and they
Interesting.
just didn't. It wasn't working, so we didn't get it. But
Interesting.
but that scene took like 9 days or something crazy to get. Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. I honestly, I do not, I don't know if I've ever actually sat through the entire thing from beginning to end. All I remember is getting really annoyed
Yeah.
because there was like I'm sure I'm remembering this wrong, but there was like a scene. It was like even like it was like Tom Cruise like walking to the refrigerator, and and you
Yeah.
hear like ding 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 ding, and I'm like, he's walking to the fridge. Calm down. Why
Yeah.
am I hearing this piano? Like it was all very like I
I
think I
love
lost patience with it, but
I love it. I can't lie. I love it. I love the whole Illuminati aspect to it. You know, the whole
I need
thing
to go back and rewatch it. I got to give it another chance. It's
it
been a long time.
it's pretty
Yeah.
solid. There's a big theory about it, about how it was about sex trafficking. Um, and that
Man,
he got like, because there was the big thing about how like 6 days after he screened it to Warner Brothers, he died in his sleep. And it's all kind of about that, like the cabal of like the
oh my
Illuminati.
God. You see, there's this basement of a pizza parlor.
Yeah.
Follow me here. Interesting. Very interesting.
He wanted to make that movie for like decades, supposedly.
Yeah, I know, crazy. But then he did like this. I also can't get behind the whole like. I mean, you guys are filmmakers. I
Yeah.
cannot get behind the whole like. Let's do 102 takes of
Yeah.
something. Like,
That's tough.
what the
Yeah.
fuck are you getting? It's fucking nuts.
That work with Kubrick, I'll just say real quick, and they'll say
Yeah,
that he's not really an on-hands director. Like he's kind of like a you keep doing it till you figure out what he wants type director, which is
great.
that's hard, dude. That's difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just like tell me what you want.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, again, Matt and I mean, we've been friends for a long time. We've been working for a long time, and we do. I mean, Matt loves Kubrick. I respect Kubrick. I don't like Kubrick. There's my big thing is, especially with 121 takes, it's kind of like I understand you're trying to get what you want, and I know you're trying to make them do it natural, so you know you're not telling them what to do. But my philosophy is if the fewer takes you make tells me you're a better director, because if you do 120 takes, you're bound to find something good in it. I mean,
there you
just the
go.
law of averages.
Yeah,
I'm just
of
saying.
course, of course. I just feel sorry for the poor editor, but like and then conversely, you have guys like Clint Eastwood who, if you ask for a third take, he's going to fire you.
yeah,
You
Yeah,
know, he wants to be home, for his 2 o'clock nap. He's not gonna fucking, stick around while you hem and haw about wanting another take.
yeah.
Um, and we could argue about whether those movies are any good either,
Yeah.
at least recently,
Right.
the recent ones. But it's just like a machine, and they're just like, and guys like Woody Allen who never like actors are like, oh yeah, I did three Woody movies. I've never met the man. I mean, like joking, like he doesn't talk to us. Well, it's like he's behind the camera, and maybe he says one or two things to us, but he never really directs us. You know,
Yeah, I
it's weird.
remember Lars von Trier was like he went into some weird like depression and he was like directing a movie from like the trailer. I remember like the whole movie he just sat in the trailer and like watched on the screen and gave his direction. I'm like, what a weird way to
So
do it.
weird.
Yeah.
And I think Coppola too had like I mean, maybe he was also more hands-on, but he had like a whole like trailer set up with all these monitors, and he would sit in there and like do everything from his like little headquarters there.
Yeah.
One of the greatest compliments I think I ever got from an actor as for me directing, because I've made a few, indie movies,
Yeah.
and we were doing like some like behind the scenes like interviews, for a press kit or something, and they asked the lead actress, they're like, "What's it like? What's it like working with Adam as a director?" And she goes, "Adam lets you do whatever you want until he doesn't." And I was like, "Yeah, I like that. That's great." Because I took like, let the actors do their thing, and if they're giving you something, even if it's something that you hadn't expected that you love, great. And it's like, oh no, 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 don't do that. Do all the rest of that stuff you're doing, just don't do that part. And that's it. I mean, like it was great.
Yeah.
I like that.
That is
Yeah, I mean the thing is again, I mean I'm being an actor. My whole thing is, I I've had both directors. I've had those that are like, okay, I want you to walk like this, talk like this, say exactly this, and stand here. And then I've had those who are like, you know, I shoot and then just move on without giving me any direction or anything like that. And I like those that are in the middle where they do
100%.
both. They give me something to look up
Right.
because hey, I'm going to read the script and I'm going to go with the way I think. But
Right.
hey, if someone
You might
gives
have a
me,
different vision. Right.
yeah, someone has a different way of looking at it that I didn't think of, I love that because it gives me something else, to play off of. And when they don't give you, if they give you too much or they give you too little, you lose your creativity with too much, and then you lose the chance of actually collaborating and making it
100%.
better.
And I think that for me, the most important thing is if an actor has a question, you have to have an answer.
Yeah.
If you haven't thought about it,
oh yeah.
I don't know. Do
Right.
whatever you want. But like I think that's the most important thing is to know it so well and have this vision that if they need something from you, you can give it to them.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
an actor places their confidence in your confidence as a
Yeah,
director, you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys get it.
Yeah, dude. The collaborate like I with the Hawkman here. The collaborate. I always try to be collaborative with every character, no matter how big or small, because then if they feel like they're creating this character with you, they have more passion for it. They get more in the mindset of the character. It's just better when me and Alex always talk about those directors, like those older directors we're talking about, were like you're sheep. You know what I mean? Like you're just gonna do what I tell you to do, and if you don't do it, we're gonna have a
Right.
big issue. You know what I mean? Uh,
I think like my ideal job now, because now I'm an old man,
yeah,
and now I don't give a fuck anymore. Like when I was young, young man, I'm not gonna sell out. I'm not gonna do now. If you want to hire me to direct a movie with a big star who doesn't want to be directed, and just stick me in a chair and like let me behind a monitor and go, yep, do whatever you want. I'm in.
yeah.
I won't even fucking talk to the star if he doesn't want me to. Like I'll just like let him do whatever he wants.
That's how I
Great.
feel. Yeah.
Oh, that
But
would be
that's
amazing.
it's like, you got the different personalities, and it's like, I've often thought about that because you'll read about an actor that's really difficult, and you kind of think as a director, you're like, well, I wonder if I could handle directing them,
Yeah.
collaborating. But I think, yeah,
Yes.
it's if they're, you got to kind of, I think it could be done. Even like there's actors, like I remember hearing a story about like, Matt Damon, somebody did a commercial with them up this way that we knew in the community, and
Uh,
yeah, they were like they tried to give him direction. He was like, just go sit in your chair, and I was like, whoa, dude. I'm like, that's wild. But I think More pre-production. I mean, I we dealt with an actor recently on the feature we're finishing up right now, and he was like, I'm like, well, I mean, do you want to talk about the character? But he was coming over from New York, and it was like, do you want to talk about the character? Nah. And I'm like, well, I should give you some notes, or I'm not really like directing. And he's like, you can send him over if you want. And I'm like, okay. And then when he got on set, some of the cast was like, you want to run lines for the scene? And he's like, no. And it was like,
Jesus Christ.
we luckily, like, I casted him because I seen him do something that was so close to what we were doing that I knew he
Yeah.
could just do it. Otherwise, it would have been like pulling my
And
hair
did
out.
he? I mean, did you end up being happy with his performance?
I was happy that by the end of it, I was because I knew
Yeah.
it. Because when I first casted him, I'm like, the role's it's a cross between this character and this character. It's kind of like mashing these. Because I'll give an actor like reference points for other performances in films, and I'll be like, you're this. It's kind of like this, and he took that info, and but we never like. Oh, and then what I've been doing recently with this, which I think I started with this actor, is that I literally will read the scene and play his part myself and like record it,
Yeah.
and then I send it to him and go, well, like this is what I'm looking for. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure some actors would be like, "Don't fucking give me a line reading." They would assume that's what you were trying to do, like,
I just like to, I have these characters in my head like yours, you know what I mean? You have the characters in your head.
yeah,
The worst thing I could imagine is like having that character in your head and then for realistically no reason at all not getting that character, you know, and because of
yeah.
difficulties.
Oh,
The
God.
worst. Yeah, so I
I
just try,
really feel like I do the same thing as you. I sit around thinking like, could I handle directing that person? And I
yeah,
feel like what I would do now is I would like in a meeting ahead of time, I'd be like, listen, tell me how this is going to go down. Like, am I allowed to give you a note? Are you going to freak out on me if I give you a note? Like, don't be a dick. Like just like
right.
like just be upfront about it. Like,
Yeah.
what's this working relationship going to be like? You know. But I always have these like fantasies that I could win them over.
Yeah,
Like
true. Well, if I show them how passionate I am about the film and, you know, talk
something,
about other
like.
films and their
Or just
work.
have some
Yeah.
like self-deprecating like joke about it,
Yeah.
and about about them being a star and me being a nobody or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So when
But
did you make the decision to kind of cross over to more behind the scenes of writing,
so
producing, directing?
I started writing screenplays when I was like, 13. I mean, they were terrible, but I was like trying, I knew very early on that I wanted to write. And I
Yeah.
remember that first agent we talked about, the adult agent.
Yeah.
He gave me, I'll never forget this. He gave me a script. He's like, oh, you want to read scripts and you want to see what the format is like? Here, you can read this TV script. And he gave me an episode of MASH, which God, I wish I still had. Like, I had it for so many years. I like treasured that like
Yeah.
copy of the script from MASH. I remember the episode was called Promotion Commotion. That was it. And that's how I like learned like teleplay format, was like by reading this MASH script and then just reading all these like they would constantly send me scripts and I would just like read them and like I learned that format. So I started trying to mimic it and like write it for myself. And then with my bar mitzvah money, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm Jewish. I I bought like my first like Apple IIe computer,
Yeah.
2C or something, and then started like word processing software and started like writing scripts and things like that. Um, and then I mean, I think at 16, my best friend and I like wrote a screenplay that we actually tried to get made for a long time. Of course, it didn't happen, but we kept trying to. And then but it was in my early 20s, I had written a script and my plan was to make it myself. Just like spend whatever money I had made as a kid actor, cash in my IRA that my parents were socking away from my
Yeah.
retired whatever. I'm like this would have been my college fund, and I'm not going to college, so I'll spend it all making this movie. And it was at the time that like indie movies were sort of had hit it big. Like Robert Townsend had made Hollywood Shuffle on his credit cards for 30,000 bucks or whatever, and it had become this big hit. And this was really the height of like Miramax and Fox Searchlight and all these indie studios, and like people were making deals at Sundance on a napkin,
Yep.
for their indie movies. And so we really thought like, and everyone kept saying, look, if you're only spending 150,000 bucks on this movie, if you make it and there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, you will at least make your money back. Someone will take it and you'll at least break even. Spoiler, not true.
Right.
But that was so my parents who were horrified that I had decided to spend all my life savings making a feature. I kept assuring them, don't worry, I will at least break even.
Yeah.
Um, and I had been, working a lot. And then the way that the TV business used to work is that, it was a pilot season every year. It was a specific months that was pilot season. And then like all these pilots would get made and you'd audition for a ton of them and usually not get any of them. And then some would get picked up and there was always the next pilot season to look forward to. And if you were in that mix, if you were an actor who worked and had good representation and you were in that mix, you were going out for a lot of pilots. And so I was in the mix, and every year there was like a bunch of pilots I would go out for, and I would just get really close or not or whatever. But the close process is you would if you were down to the wire, you would test for the pilot, which is the last two or three people up for the role would all negotiate their contracts ahead of time, and you would all sign your deal before the audition, so that way, of course, if they wanted you, you can go, oh, you want me? Okay, let's talk money.
Yeah.
They would lock you in to the number before the audition. But still, like you're negotiating this deal and you're seeing these numbers and you're like, holy shit, right? And then you're like attaching desire to like, I really want to fucking get this. And then you go and you're like auditioning for the network. And it's just a bunch of like suits, who aren't laughing it's a
Yeah.
super intimidating process. And then they're like, okay, you can go sit outside and wait. And then like they go, okay, you can go home and we'll let you know. And then, you get this, you're waiting for this phone call for 3 days, It's just an intense process. And then later on, it became that you were not only reading for the network, but first you had to get past the studio execs. So then it became like a two-part process of like getting past the studio execs and then moving on to the network and getting past them. And it was just fucking brutal. And so I think that the year was, the year was 1995. And I think that pilot season, I tested for like 3 or 4 different shows and didn't get any of them. Like it was like down to the wire, negotiating, like the whole thing 3 or 4 different times. And each time the other guy got it. And it was just like brutal and demoralizing and exhausting. And then so let's say it was 3 pilots. And then a fourth one came in. They wanted to test me. And it was I thought at the time, the worst script of all the ones I had auditioned for so far this season. I thought it was the dumbest script. And also it was the worst money because it was like Fox and early on, and they weren't offering, much money, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't even like meet the quote, and that was the one thing about when you would test for a show, even if you didn't get the part, if that deal that you made that didn't get picked up, that became your new quote.
Okay.
So that was one good benefit from it. If your agents were able to like negotiate a really good deal for you, that became your new quote. So like, but this show wouldn't meet the quote, bad money. I thought the script was dumb. And so I was supposed to test for it, and I was like, I'm gonna pass. And my agent's like freaked out. You can't pass. You're their first choice. Like this is, and I was like, I'm like, listen, pilot season's not over yet. It's If I've tested for 4, I'll test for 5. Like maybe there's another one that's better money and a better show coming down the pike. I'll just hold out. I don't want to get locked into this dumb one.
Yeah.
If another one's going to right around the corner, and if not, there's always next pilot season. I can wait. And like if it doesn't work out, I'll go make my movie instead. My agents were beside themselves. They were, yeah. I think my agent told my manager that called me an asshole. Like he was just like they could not believe I was passing on this thing.
Yeah.
And I think I actually said, to my manager, and she went back to my agent, and he said Adam says tell them he'll do it if he can direct an episode in the second season. And my agents were like, we are not going back to them with that. Like, fuck off. So I was like, all right, well, I'm passing. I'll go make my movie instead. And I passed on it. And that was Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh shit.
Oh, oh,
Well, I mean, they didn't. It's not like
Because
they had a.
clearly, I had great taste in
Yeah.
material and really smart business sense. Um, so yeah, that was the Xander part that Nicholas Brendan
Oh,
ended up
really?
doing. Yeah. Now I listen, I absolutely still could not have gone. I mean, could have gone in and tested and still not gotten it again and been like, the also ran once again.
Yeah.
But supposedly I was like, yeah, Joss Whedon's first choice at the time or whatever. And like that casting director never brought me in again
Oh
for the
yeah.
rest of my like they were really pissed at me. And what's funny is that that was the last pilot season, 1995, that I ever auditioned for a pilot. 1996 never happened again. Like that was it. That was like I thought there was gonna be like I thought I had years of pilot seasons ahead of me.
Nice.
I have never auditioned for a pilot since then. That was like the
yeah.
end, basically the end of my acting career. Pretty much started. That was like the moment that it all started to go to shit. And so I did. I did. I went and made my movie instead, and it did not go well. I mean, it was we made it. It had a
Yeah.
beginning, a middle, and an end,
Yeah.
and we shot it on 35, Panavision cameras, Kodak stock, and we thought we were going to be the next, napkin deal at
Yeah.
Sundance, and we were not. And in fact, I think we were shooting ours around the same time that like Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn were shooting Swingers,
Yeah.
and you know you know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know the story there. Uh, so yeah, so my movie was not great, and people did not like it, and it never sold to anybody. And we kept trying to do things with it, like recut it, retitle it, try to make changes to it. We did some reshoots couple of years later to try to like nothing. It was a disaster. So yeah, I lost all that money. And that was like my parents' worst nightmare because it was all the money that I had saved up, as a kid actor. Um, and I had a house at the time, and I lost that to like that got like repossessed. Like I pretty much like my father on his deathbed was still like, "Why did you have to?" I'm like, "I know, sorry, I
The
blew it."
ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, for
And
our
that's
art, man.
for definitely. That's
Um,
35, dude. It's way different nowadays. You shoot digitally, but shooting on 35 is like, whoa.
yeah, and so we found a stock that was like they were DPs didn't like it or something, so they were phasing it out over at Kodak. And so they made us a deal where they would give us a foot of film for every foot that we bought. So I
Yeah.
think we bought 25,000 feet and we got 50,000 feet. And even with that, we were shooting like I basically was editing in my head. And I would tell the like producer, okay, I know if you let me have close-ups and coverage of this one, I can shoot the next one in a master and I'm fine. I know I don't need it. Or let's shoot this scene, the close up only like only up to this point because I know I'm not gonna, or shoot the master only up to this point because I know I'm gonna be into coverage at that point, so I don't need the rest of it. So I was just constantly doing that, and it worked. I mean, it was there. But you get in the editing room, you're like, oh my God, this is a great take. Yes, yeah. Oh, and then it ends because you just stopped shooting because you didn't have, you're like, fuck, man, God, why didn't I keep rolling? Um, that kind of stuff. And
Well,
we were editing on like these old, like we were on 3/4 inch tape, like the whole thing. Like we never got to like actually cut the negative or do anything to like, make a print of it. It
yeah.
all stayed, on old, bad, shitty, like 3/4 inch tape, but digitized onto an Avid for that like really and we were renting towers
Yeah.
by like the week that were like not that. I mean, now you go out, you buy a 3 terabyte, hard drive for $100,
Yeah.
and then you were literally renting some small, not that big of a hard drive for like hundreds of dollars a week,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
What was the movie about? Did you guys put it out yourself or is it on YouTube or anything?
No, it's
What?
nowhere. It's
Yeah.
nowhere. It was called performance anxiety.
Okay.
And it was like it was my attempt at like I was trying to make like in my version of like a Woody Allen movie, you
Okay.
know. And it was about like this stand-up comic who falls in love for the first time and proceeds to completely destroy it by becoming a neurotic, insecure mess. And it I had written it like for myself to play
Yeah.
the lead, and then I ended up casting my best friend, who was completely not the right type. He was not a stand-up comic energy. He did not have, and he's an amazing actor, but was just like not that vibe. But I was like, no, but he's good, and that's all that matters. And so then I played like the best friend, and he, the comic relief or whatever, and he played and it didn't work. Audiences weren't rooting for him. It wasn't like funny in the way that it would have been if someone had been more shticky, which I would have been had I done it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it just did. And I thought that whole Woody thing, that like I remember as a kid watching Annie Hall for the first time, and like even if I didn't get the literary reference he was making, it was funny. It was funny because of his delivery and the timing and the rhythms. And so I thought I could get away with that. So I'm making all characters are making all these like literary references and like obscure joke, and like the audiences were just like alienated,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Um, so yeah, it did not work.
It happens. You know what I mean?
It happens. It happens. I learned very painful lessons on that.
The mid '90s was like, I feel like the last really push for the like, independent, bigger, and like you got Tarantino, Rodriguez, Kevin Smith. You know what I mean? Townsend,
Yeah,
of course. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's I could only imagine how many movies were like indie films were getting made then. Not as much as now,
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean now, of course,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a part of me that thinks that's great to have the democratization of the tools so that anyone who has, the passion and a vision can go and make a movie. I think that's great. But then you have the opposite problem of like there's such a glut, and and who are the gatekeepers, and how do you break through, and how do you get your thing seen, and how do it's fucking tough, man.
Yeah. It's we often have that conversation of, whether the digital era is a blessing or a curse, because now
Yeah.
everybody's doing it. And, when it was 35, man, there was a lot more. You were making it because you had a passion to go through the war to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have a story to tell. Nowadays, with it being so easy to do, it's good for certain people, but I think it's you know, it's bad in other situations. And there's people that are making it. I know it's show business, but there's people that are just doing it for straight money, monetary reasons, and have no passion and no care, don't care about the art form of it. It's just kind of it's flooded, and it's not a good deal. You know what I
I
mean?
don't think,
It's
I don't
tough.
think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why you have like so many sequels or reboots and all that. I do have to say you are in one of my favorite sequels,
oh,
uh,
Oh,
Secret of the Ooze.
are we getting into it?
we gotta get up into. I got the shirt on
We
and
got
Got the
everything,
shirt
man.
on. Okay, so the secret of the ooze, I
Oh
assume
yeah.
we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So when I did that, so first of all, I was not a comic book fan as a kid or anything. So I'd never seen the first Turtles movie,
Really?
and really had not like ingested any Turtles content. And then that came about because of Feldman's arrest. So so Corey Feldman had done the voice of Donatello in the first one.
Yeah.
And then he got busted with, heroin in the trunk of his car or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And as memory serves, and I could be completely wrong about this, but in my memory, shortly before his arrest, George Bush Sr., who was president at the time, made some like comment about how like the Turtles represented a drug-free America, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
Corey gets busted. So New Line Cinema was like, no, 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 no. Like, we can't. And on top of that, parents had already complained that the first movie was too violent
Okay.
and
Yeah.
too dark. So as it is, they were planning to make the sequel a lot more kid friendly. And so Corey was out. and they needed someone to replace him. And then they hired, I think, someone else after Corey, and that didn't work out after a couple days. And so when I auditioned for it, it was if I were to get it, it was going to start the next day. It was like, this is a Monday, and t tomorrow morning you're going to start if you get this part. And I went in and like I don't even know if they maybe they sent over a clip of Corey and said, maybe try to like sound like this, but I don't even remember if that was the case. I just kind of went in and did my own thing, which was basically my own voice but in a higher register. And and I just got it. And I think they were desperate. And I just started like the next day. Like that was it. And the movie was long in the can and had been cut and the whole thing. And this was just looping essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the director was there a few times, but not all the time. Um, and and I did it alone by myself, not with the other actors until the very end. Like I did however many days it took, and it wasn't, maybe it was like a few, like 3 or 4 days, 5 days. And then at the end, we had a session with all of us where we came in and did a bunch of like, group stuff. But the bulk of it I did by myself.
So how do you like doing the voice acting as opposed to physical acting? I know you were part of like Denver the Last Dinosaur, which I love to death, dude. You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah, I mean, I used to I loved it. I did a lot of voiceover stuff when I was a kid. I did, again, and that was another world, a very insular world where like, once you were in it, you were in it, and you're
yeah,
going from session to session, sometimes in a single day. But it was hard to break into. But again, I was a kid, so it was easier because I could read and all that stuff. So I've done like Defenders of the Earth, which I think we did like 65 episodes of that. And Denver the Last Dinosaur. And I did one later. I did Peter Pan and the Pirates, where I got to work with Tim Curry, so that was very cool. Um, and and like on Denver, I got to do two. I was playing two different characters, and sometimes I'm like doing like a scene with myself, just bouncing back and forth between the two voices. So I love doing that stuff. It
yeah.
was a lot of fun. Yeah. Um,
So you would do
but
when you would conversate with yourself. I always assumed it'd be like you'd just be talking to even if it was yourself, both
right.
characters should have pre-recorded.
No,
No?
they really would just bounce back and forth. I mean, I think they would offer sometimes like, do you want to do all of one and then all of the other? I'm like, no, no, let's just do it. Like, let's just run through it. And then we would, and then you'd go back and they'd say, okay, let's, fix stuff. But yeah, just having conversations with myself, which was super fun. I mean, I love
Yeah.
doing it, you know. Um, but and with the Donatello thing, like, yeah, I just sort of like made it up as I went along.
So
Uh,
like if you didn't see the first movie with Donatello and stuff, like
yeah,
how do you kind of is there like a headspace as an actor that you try to get in with it, or what's your approach to like
I wish I could remember. I mean, I really, at the time,
yeah.
you know. I was probably stoned. No, I didn't go to work. I didn't go to work stoned, but like, at the time I had like, hair down to here, and I was wearing like an African dashiki and like rope sandals. And, I was like fancying myself like a hippie.
Yeah.
Um, but I really have no recollection of like doing any prep for it because it all happened so fast
Yeah.
that I just like went in and just assumed they wanted me to do what I did in the audition, and they seemed to that's what they wanted. They just wanted me to do this thing, and so I just did it, whatever was my instinct, and that's what they seemed to want. So it just sort of worked out, and it was such a te weird technical thing too because there with the puppetry, with the guys in the suits and everything, there were oftentimes more lip flaps than were called for in the dialogue. So you'd be like, you'd have this line, and it would be like, cowabunga, but it was like there was an extra lip flap in there, and so I'd go, okay, there's the lip flap goes on a little bit too long. What do you want me to say? And he'd be like, I don't know, just make a sound. So yeah, I'd go, cowabunga, because you're just trying to like extend it a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it was sort of like didn't really know, and they were sometimes they just be like, I don't know, and the engineer is like, I don't give a shit, like say something, you know. So it was an interesting process. Um,
That
my
was
my big fun story from that is that at the premiere, we go to the premiere and there's a big premiere and it's like a wedding. There's tents everywhere, tables and like name cards and stuff, for after the screening. And we're all sitting around and they put all of us voice actors like at one table together. Makes sense. And then there was like the one guy and his date that we didn't know who they were. And we're sitting around and we're talking and we're all like talking about the movie and we're all making fun of Vanilla Ice
Ah,
and how like ridiculous and cheesy that sequence was. We're grown-ups, right? We're grown-ups and we're like, that was fucking ridiculous. That guy, what a fucking weird sequence that was. And we're all talking shit. And at some point, this guy who's at our table was like, he's like, by the way, you guys were all really great. Like, I really loved your performance. Oh, we were like, oh, thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say. How do you fit into all this? He's like, I'm Vanilla Ice's manager. And we were all just froze. And we were all just like, oh, that must be an amazing gig. How interesting. Oh, God. Like, we were just like horrified. We'd just been sitting there bashing his client the entire time while he sat there amused, listening to all of us just talk shit.
he probably did it himself when Vanilla wasn't listening. So
Oh, my God.
I mean,
Yeah, he
what
probably
I
was sitting there,
he
huh?
made like he still perform. He like performs that song and brings Turtles out to like to do the ninja rap. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I'm sure people fucking love it.
Oh, it's huge, dude.
Yeah, it's got to be huge. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. Um I do, of course, films with Matt, but I do films, in Las Vegas around. And I met this one guy that I've done some films with, and he actually plays one of the turtles that goes
Oh,
around with Vanilla Ice during his gigs. He's done other things, but so that's my little connection to that.
Yeah, yeah.
he should also reenact when Suge Knight held him outside like the hotel window by his feet or whatever happened, and like should reenact that on the road.
You
I
should.
like that.
Yeah, it'd be good. It would show some self-awareness. I worked with Tim Curry, which was so that my story about that is I was a big, again, I was probably in my late teens, early 20s when I worked with him, maybe late teens. And I was a huge Rocky Horror fan. And my friends and I would go to the New Art in LA, which was the art house theater that played for, maybe still does, played Rocky for years and years and years as the midnight, Saturday night, midnight, movie. And we were all part of it. We'd all go that was a big part of my teenage years was going to Rocky. And so I was driving to my first day on Peter Pan and the Pirates, and I did not know that Tim Curry was part of the cast. And I was listening to, on my way to my first day, I was listening to the Rocky Horror audience participation tape, which I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was sort of like this bootleg of the movie recorded during one of the like New York, live things. So it had everything. It had all the dialogue from beginning to end and the audience's calls and the whole thing. So you're just
Yeah.
listening to like and so I'm listening to that while driving to work. I get there and we're all sitting around waiting to start. And someone came and said, okay, we're gonna start as soon as Tim Curry gets here. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? He's
Yeah.
like, we're gonna start as soon as Tim Curry gets here. I was like, I was just like completely in shock. And they're like, yeah, he's playing Captain Hook. And I was just like, holy fuck. Like, I'm just telling you, I was literally just in the car and I'm listening to that. I mean, it's completely freaking out. And he was great. He was great. I would just sit in the booth and like watch him in awe, just like watch him work. And he was just so fucking good.
Yeah.
And very funny and very lovely. I remember he left, he was gone for a little while because he was shooting it like in
Oh,
Canada or something.
hell yeah.
And he came back and he was like showing us pictures of himself in the Pennywise like costumes and stuff, like, like Polaroids or whatever. Like it's very cool.
Nice.
Um, yeah. And he was great. He had a great sense of like very obvious, very like dry, sardonic sense of humor. And he would tell, and he told us, he's like, he went to some, I think like 20th Century Fox, they had some like 20th anniversary party or something on the lot for Rocky. And he went 20, 30, I don't even know how long it had been. And he went to this like anniversary thing. And he told us how like Richard O'Brien, who
The
wrote it
creator.
and played
Yeah.
Riff Raff, right? He's like, he's like, yeah, he wants me to do a sequel. He's like, he asked me if I would play Frank's mother in a sequel. And he says, will you do it for me, Tim? And Jim goes, he said, I said, yes, I will do it for you, and £1 million. He was like telling stories like that. I was just like a kid in a candy store, just like, oh my God, just want to just download it all, just tell me everything, just mainline it, like it was great.
It got
It was
isn't
weird.
Shock Treatment like the unofficial sequel to that or something like that?
Yeah, there was one before that, but
Okay.
yeah, but this was gonna be like a new thing,
An actual Rocky
in
Horror
the
director.
90s, yeah. Tim Curry as Frank's mother in a dress, the whole thing, but like didn't happen. Didn't happen,
It
guys.
would have made money. It would have made money.
Listen. Um, but yeah, it was there's something about like sometimes I look back and think about my career and think about some of the heroes of my heroes that I got to work with and be like, holy, I can't. It feels like a weird dream. Like I feel like it didn't really happen.
Hmm.
Um, I got to work with Bob Newhart, who was like one of my comedy heroes.
Yeah.
I got to work with John Ritter, who was one of my comedy heroes. Like these were, um, really incredible. Like
How was working with John Ritter? I mean, dude, I cried when he died.
the
Like that
best,
was
the
horrifying.
absolute best.
Yeah.
Like that, whatever you think he would be like as a human being, exactly what he was like. He was the sweetest man, and he was unbelievably supportive. Like he was one of those guys like he wanted you to if you did something funny, he would notice it, and then he would come and like tell you, he'd take you aside, be like, I saw that thing that you did. That was really funny. And he would like praise you for it. And like he was always giving people like if I made a joke and it made him laugh, he would run around telling everyone the joke and telling them that I told it. Like he was all about like giving credit and just supporting everyone around him,
Rare.
which was really cool.
Yeah.
And I remember the day that I met him, I had done I'd never met him, and it was like day one of working on this pilot. And um, there was a show, a sitcom, I don't know if you guys remember, called Anything But Love, which was with Richard Lewis and Jamie Lee
Lewis.
Curtis.
Yeah.
And I had done an episode of that where I had like played a stoner. And his production company produced that show. So he had obviously seen the episode or something. And he probably just wanted to know who he was going to be working with because I guess the producers of the show just offered it to me and they wrote this part for me. So like he'd never met me. And so he was probably like, who is this kid that that you're bringing on the show? But he watched the episode of the show that his company produced. So the day that I met him, before I even had a chance to say anything, he walked up to me and he went like and did like this whole thing of like showing me that he had watched the episode that I had done of the show and like thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I was just like that, like how do you like I immediately felt at ease and like comfortable and like not like all intimidated. Um, he was the best.
Hawk's a big Newhart fan.
Yeah, yeah.
You are?
Fun to bring
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I would watch the original Bob Newhart show with my folks, and then of course Newhart then was running when I was a kid, so I really got into that, and also I love the movie Catch 22. I mean, his role in it as Major Major is hilarious.
Truly one. I mean, and they were best. Like Newhart and Rickles, two of my biggest like, comedy heroes, and they were best friends, which is great. Um, my biggest regret about working with Newhart is that because of the nature of the scene, you don't if the camera's on Bob, it's not on me. And when the camera's on me, it's not on us. We're never in the same shot together, just going back and forth. I kind of wish I had like a screenshot, of like a wide shot where we're like in the shot together. Um, and then, I didn't talk to him much. I mean, I was pretty young, and I'm just doing these scenes with him, and like we didn't really chat a lot. Um, but but yeah, I was sort of in awe, because I had listened to his, even as a kid, I had listened to his like comedy album, the button down Bob Newhart, like on vinyl.
Yeah.
So I was super like I was already a fan. Um, but yeah, just in awe, just sort of standing there going, is this really happening? Am I really doing this scene with Bob Newhart right now? Like, this is really weird. Yeah.
Oh, man. I want to ask one last question for me, and then if Alex has
Sure.
anything. I'm a huge fan of Man's Best Friend. Do you have any good memories from that film?
I have memories. I don't know if they're good, but I do have memories.
Uh-oh,
No,
uh-oh.
no, no, it's not anything. Those were reshoots. Apparently they had they had shot the movie, they cut it, they probably screened it, tested it, and I think they decided it needed some more comic relief.
Yeah.
So they wrote these two like dumb dog catchers, and did the thing. And honestly, my big memory from that, and I have not seen the movie in probably since it came out.
Very funny.
But I had a really bad day that day, and it was like a bad health day. I had not slept well or at all the night before. I was exhausted, and it was like 110 degrees. And we were dressed in like these, like, the dog catcher outfits with like heavy tool belts and shit. And we're running around doing all this fucking shit in like 110-degree weather. And I just like basically like freaked out. Like I had like a panic attack. I was like, I almost passed out from like the heat and the exhaustion. And all I remember is them having to like the onset nurse had to give me a vitamin B12 shot to like get me like revived because I was completely about to like, I was like, I gotta go home. I gotta get out of here. Like I was completely freaking out. I'm sure they were like, oh God, who did we hire? What the fuck is happening here? This is a disaster. But we got through the day. I think it was actually 2 days. I think it might have been maybe the second day I was fine or something like that. But,
Well,
um, yeah.
was it a second unit shoot or did you get to work with the director?
No, definitely got to work with the director. And I think as memory serves, I could be wrong. It was his first feature. I think he was a special effects guy, a visual effects uh, expert, and may have been his first feature as director. And I remember him being a perfectly nice guy. But I don't, so I don't have a lot of specific memories of doing it. I
Yeah.
mean, I can remember being in that like sort of garage thing and doing like the green screen part, the part where like the dog is like, face to face with us and we're just sort of staring at some bullshit, mark or whatever.
Yeah.
Which was cool because I have not done a lot of that it might have been the first and last time I've ever got to do anything like kind of that special effects specific. Um, but you probably know the movie much better than I do. I have not seen it in a long. Am I terrible? I mean, you can be
Oh,
honest.
you're
Like, is it
good in
really
it. You're
cheesy and
really
bad?
it's a very fun movie. You're great in it. You got to go watch Man's Best Friend and Eyes Wide Shut, and I want to know your opinion.
So I'm not like too over the top cartoonish with the stoner thing and the
No,
dumb
well,
dog
the
catcher
type
thing.
of it works perfect for the type of film it is. It's like one of my favorite like sci-fi horror movies of the 90s. It's really Ali
Okay.
Sheedy, Lance Henriksen, they're really
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
in it. That movie in itself just reminds me of the video store days because I remember seeing a trailer for it. I remember anticipating and waiting for it to drop on VHS and renting it like that Friday night. So I got good memories with it. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. That makes me happy. I'm glad to hear that. I will. I'll check it out. I'll watch it like through my fingers and like kind of like cringe, but
fast forward through your part if that makes you feel better.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's good.
Every so often I'll like watch some old thing I did that I don't barely remember and go, oh my God, I worked with that actor. I know that actor. I worked with them. Like I knew them at some point. That's so weird. Like
Yeah, yeah, it's good
um,
times. Hawk man,
yeah.
you got any like we kept him on for quite a bit. You got any questions for Adam?
Honestly, there's only one bit jumping back to your early years.
Yep.
Um, as a kid,
Yep.
I sucked at math. Okay,
Me
so
too.
Square One and MathNet were
Yeah.
like the only times where I think my parents were happy because I actually enjoyed it and I was learning math, which they can't seem to actually teach me. So I saw that you were involved with it, and I just want to know how that was as an experience.
That was great. So the episode that I did was called "The Mystery of the Maltese Pigeon," and it was this parody of the Maltese Falcon. And my character was basically the Peter Lorre character, and so I'm like this little kid like, who turns out is like a secret agent from the government of Malta, and I'm doing like this vague like I mean I was just doing some like weird like vague Eastern European kind of like Russian accent. They were like, great, like whatever. I don't know how they sound in Malta. I'm just making things up, right? So it was fun. So I'm doing this bit, and but my big memory from that show is that this is the first time I ever wrote a line that made it into the final cut of a show. Um, because it was the whole thing about those bits, it was all very deadpan and very like there was all these like deadpan jokes. And my character's name was Noel Sphinx Jr. Okay. So my line was, I'm Noel Sphinx Jr. I'm a secret agent from the government of Malta. And so it occurred to me to write my own deadpan joke. I was like, I think they missed an opportunity for a joke here. So I went to the director and I was like, can I say, my name is Noel Sphinx Jr. My father was the first Noel. And he's like, that's great. Do that. Say that. That's a great joke. I was like, great. So I did the joke. And then at the screening they had like a screening of the episode. The writer came over to me and introduced himself and was like, I can't believe I didn't think of that joke. He
Yeah.
was like, leave it to a kid. He's like, I can't believe I missed that, but nice one. They tell me you came up with it. Congratulations. He seemed like a little bit annoyed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also like he was just like, great. 13-year-old kid comes up with the joke I missed, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I always believe that it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Right.
Uh, you,
Yeah.
I, I, it's funny because people, I mean, some people tell me that I'm great at improv, which I joke. I'm like, I'm good at rehearsing improv. Where when I don't know if you do this, but you get a
Same.
script and you see a line, and I think about 20 ways of different ways of like adding things or just moving things around
Yeah.
because I think what's the best, I do it, and then they're like, well, that's not like, oh, I made a mistake. Sorry, my
Right.
bad. And then I
Right. Right.
do the line as written. But I do that a lot because I'm especially doing a lot of independent films. I'm nothing against the screenwriters, but sometimes like that screenwriter missed an opportunity for a
Right.
good joke or a
Right.
good setup. So
I mean, again, that goes back to sort of how I feel like when I'm directing, and especially since I'm usually directing something that I wrote, is that when people ad lib like that, I love it
yeah.
until as long as I like it, right? So it's like they might come up with three or four different new lines or ad lib something, and I'll just be like, keep that one, don't do that one. Again, it's sort of like just like whatever. If it works, it works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you can't be precious about it or have like ego shit around it. So I don't mind it, as long as they're also willing to do it straight, as do a take where we
Oh,
don't do that, or
yeah.
or if you say, you know what, I don't love that one, don't do it, and as long as they're not like completely, an
Yo, it's my
asshole.
way. It's my
Yeah,
improv.
no, my way or the highway, yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a super fun show to work on. And yeah, I'm still proud of that I got my first line in there. Um, yeah, I mean, I was really lucky. I think I feel particularly lucky that like I essentially was like, I was like the kid version of a character actor, right? So I was just like a journeyman actor going around mostly working on other people's shows and didn't really have anything of my own, quote unquote, my own shows or whatever. But I think that was great. I got to do a diverse, a lot of different kinds of stuff. I got to work with amazing people, without the pressure of having it be, I had like, I was not, all my friends were like in like Tiger Beat and doing like, teen, idol shit. And I was not. It might surprise you to know I was not, pinned up on girls' walls. And,
Oh,
but I got to do a lot of like really cool, shows with a lot of really cool actors. So that was like, I'll take that every time.
Can you think of any like good lessons that you learned from the earlier days of like that stuff that you carried on into when you started writing and directing and producing?
I mean, for me, it really was just about like wanting there to be a feeling of like camaraderie and collaboration on sets, wanting to, I knew that like it was always frustrating when you'd have a director as a kid, especially as a kid, who didn't take you seriously or treated you like you were, much younger than you were, or didn't, or just blew you off if you had concerns or questions. And I never wanted to be that guy, whether it was a kid actor or an adult actor. Like I just wanted, and I wanted everything to feel like, easy and fun. We're not, curing cancer here. Um, and so I've always just sort of endeavored to make, even on movies where we had no money, if we're making an entire feature for 100 grand and we were like, we don't know how we're going to pull this off, we would still find ways to like, especially with a crew who's like agreed to work for basically nothing, you find ways to like, um, we would like hire a mobile massage place to come in on a Friday and give everyone the crew like massages at lunch, or you get like a coffee or donut truck for a day. Like you just find ways to like reward everybody, and so that they go, wow, like I don't want to, like I could leave this and go work on this other job that's going to pay me my rate. But these people they're good people and they value what we're doing here and they're not taking us for granted and so I think that's mostly that, just knowing how I was treated as a kid and just wanting to, and knowing that when I was treated well, how good it felt, and when I was treated poorly, how terrible it felt,
Mm.
and never wanting to be that guy, wanting to be the one that made everyone feel welcome and like doing their comfortable to do their best work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great in general, but that's great advice for anybody listening, that does the arts. It's like you got to treat your people good. You know what I mean?
I
It's
mean, it's
key,
it's especially if you're not paying them.
Yeah.
especially yeah, more so.
Yeah, and if you're throwing a lot of money at them, fuck that. Like they can have it. But if you're asking for favors, you better be real nice.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Adam, this was fantastic, man. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely happy to be here. You guys are great. It was very easy talking to you. So, anytime.
We'll do it again. We'll do it
Happy
again.
to come back if there's anything you forgot to ask.
All right, we'll pick you up on that offer. We always love having people come back.
Yeah, we always
Awesome.
bring people back.
Excellent. Love to hear it.
Well, cool. All right, well, have a great day over there. Good luck with all your future endeavors. You working on a new flick or anything now?
No, actually, right now I'm writing musical theater.
Oh, but
I'm
I
a,
did.
I'm a big, I'm a big musical theater nerd. And so I've been working on like lyrics and book writing for a musical theater project.
Yeah, I know you wrote and directed in what was it? Waiting for Ophelia.
Right, which was and that was a play that I wrote back in the early 2000s, and we made a movie of it. There wasn't a musical, but it was just an indie, a bunch of actors sitting on a couch talking kind of movie, the kind that you can make for real cheap.
Do you prefer like the more theater experience over like the set, or what?
I think right now I do. I went through a period of many, many years where I was just really into wanting to just make movies and produce movies and now theater was early on like one of my first loves, and I really feel like that's sort of where I'm focused on right now, sort of getting back to that.
I love it.
So
I love it.
fingers crossed.
Hell yeah. Good luck with that, man.
Thanks, guys. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
We
Have a
appreciate
good
you,
one.
good sir. You know what I mean? Have a great rest of the day over there, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Have a good
Take
one.
care.
You too.
And ladies and gentlemen, there he was. The great Adam Carl, man. Super nice guy, super talented. You know what I mean? Been a part of like all types of cool stuff, been in every spectrum of the creative side, from theater, film, television, you name it, you know what I mean? Just doing it. Um, that Feldman thing, it's funny because we were going to bring up I thought Feldman didn't want to do it because of money, but when he did that, that sparked I was like, oh yeah, dude, Feldog got caught with that H bomb in his trunk. I forgot about that. Um, but yeah, Adam's a super cool dude. Thank you to the Hawkman for hooking it up. Very cool. What's your thoughts?
Well, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the conversation. I mean, I had seen him in a bunch of things. Unfortunately, we didn't bring it up, or we didn't talk about, it, but Monster Squad. He
Oh,
was, he
yeah,
was,
I forgot all about. We'll bring him.
yeah. It slipped my mind until the very end. It was like shit, But hey, there's always next time. We're going to definitely bring him on, and again, what's great about it, especially talking to him, is he's been even the projects that didn't work out. He's had an interesting experiences and stories. He's worked with a lot of people, and it I think he really gives a good insight of kind of the especially being a child actor growing up in the industry and not being a star. I mean, like you said, he was a child version of a character actor, and
Yeah.
actually, I think probably because we did briefly talk about it, about how he pretty much went through and was luckily didn't experience some of the things like Feldog did, and some others who had also grew up as child actors in the film.
To get better parents, like we're
That
saying. I think that's
that
key.
yeah, and also I think another thing is that you look at a lot of child actors that weren't the stars, but were more of like him, the character actors. I think a lot of times they also have a better chance because they were there, but a lot of the attention wasn't focused on them. So I think a lot of them were able to get through a lot of hurdles unscathed for the fact that everything wasn't focused on them.
You were pretty quick with that Monster Squad after the fact. If you ever remember it, feel free to put your hand up. If ever I'm closing it up and you remember anything, put your hand up in the air like that, brother. And I'll stop. I'll go, all right, beep, beep, Richie, beep, beep. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
All
again,
about that. I'd love that. I would love. We'll have him back though. He's a good dude. I liked him a
yeah.
lot. Um, really cool.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great conversation. A lot of great stories. Very personable. Love talking to him, and just talking about everything in general, just filmmaking, and I love talking to him about the infamous Twilight Zone situation.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like getting too deep into that, but and you got to meet Landis, which it's an interesting thing because, like I said, I met Landis at Rocket Shock, and I was right with Adam. Like I wasn't gonna hit Landis with some fucking Twilight Zone shit. You know what I mean? You're there. You're like Animal House, Blues Brothers. You know what I mean?
Helicopter.
Well, that was that down, down, down. Jennifer Jason Lee, daughter of Vic Moreau, who was the dude that got chopped up by that copter. That's kind of like one of the most hard. If that happened nowadays, I feel like the director would be like,
Oh, he would have been.
"Adios, adios, amigo."
Well,
It was
well, here's the thing that I think he definitely would be raked over the coals and people would go after him. But even in today's world, where a lot more of those kind of people are held accountable for what they've done, their feet to the fire, in the end, a lot of them still seem to be scathing away. For the most part, on harm still being used in like films and all of that. So, I
I,
mean, the fact is that unfortunately, if you can convince people that you will make the money, it doesn't matter what you are involved with. You'll always still find work.
and I'd always say that Landis would put himself in danger as well as his crew. Like he's a stuntman. If you watch American Werewolf in London, when the werewolf comes out, I think the subway and there's all the chaos and the cars crashing into people. Landis was gets hit by a car. He's like does a stunt in the film. But so like I think that his way of thinking is like, you do what you got to do type deal. Obviously, if he knew that Moreau and those kids were gonna get chopped up, he wouldn't have been cool with that. It was kind of like a freak deal.
See, I mean, I
Way that
understand.
he handled, if I could finish my sentence, but the way that he handled the courtroom and stuff, like I remember him having press conferences and never talking about guilt about what happened. I don't know if his lawyer said don't express guilt, but he didn't express guilt about the people dying. He was more concerned with his career, which is that's bogus potatoes right there. That's bogus potatoes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact is, I think that, especially since, he's still, I mean, I remember seeing like an interview with him where, he was talking about the incident and what I loved was I think the interviewer made a comment about his career kind of taking a downward turn after Twilight Zone, and he was like, "What are you talking about? I did Trading Places after that. I did pretty much saying that I was still making movies, still doing great stuff." And of course, it's like, dude, okay, that's not the point of this conversation here. Okay, the thing is, you made a bad call. People died because of it. You
Mhm.
have to own up to it. If you don't, okay, I mean, again, I mean, like I said, my piece, you can agree with it or not, but yeah, I will stand. Landis has made some great films that will go down in history as some great comedies, some, just great cinema. But he, as a person, I always had a problem with because I don't think he's ever really taken responsibility for some of his actions.
Landis has the trifecta of Landis is Animal House, Blues Brothers, and American Werewolf in London. You know what I mean? And then it trickles down a little bit. Like I like Coming to America. I like Trading Places. I like Three Amigos. But I think the first three are his creme de la creme, and then it goes into that, and then we're talking like you continue, it goes down. Innocent Blood's fun. You talk about The Stupids with Tom Arnold, where you can see his fucking jaw chattering from cocaine abuse. Um, he did a movie called Slasher, which is a documentary about like a car salesman, which was actually pretty good. And then I think he did a movie with like Ron Perlman later in his career that I believe you were a fan of, like Bringing Out Your Dead or something like that. It was like a medieval theme.
Oh, you mean
Uh,
Season of the Witch?
no, that's Cage, isn't it?
Well, that's Cage and Perlman.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of is something different completely. I think Edgar Wright might have been in it. But we're not here to talk about fucking Johnny Landis.
Okay.
Right? So Adam was a great dude, had a lot of great stories. you know it's he's been going, he's still making stuff. He's doing the musicals and stuff like that, which is super cool. I'd love to catch one sometime, but he's a survivor in this business. I mean, you see this business just chew people up and Hawk him into the fucking dirt all the time, and he's still doing his deal, got a good attitude about it. I liked him a lot. I thought he was a really good dude, and I want to hear his opinion on Man's Best Friend and Eyes Wide Shut. You guys got a little hard on the Coob. You guys got a little hard on the Coob, but I forgive you because you're both good guys. But sometimes you need 150 takes of somebody walking into a bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that's what you got to do.
Hey! If you didn't get my best side on the first take, then I don't know what's wrong with you, man. Because my ass is my best side.
I was going to say, where is Alex's best side? You know where it is?
Where? Where?
Bogus potatoes on the side. Bogus potatoes. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. We hope everybody else enjoyed this episode. I know we did. Um, and I'm looking forward to a round two with him. He was really cool. And like I said, we got some more stuff. We cruised. I thought the conversation was really well. I didn't want to I like going off the rails, into different things, as I know Alex does too. But we got the facts of life, Tracy Ullman, Monster Squad, My Little Pony. It's we left. Let's just say that we left out from 87 to like 88, dude. We done dropped out this conversation. Batman animated series, was loving that to death. You know what I mean? Silk Stockings. I like to call the sexy X Files. You know what I'm saying? Um, we definitely listen. We got another round with the gentleman. You know what I mean? And super cool dude. And he had fun. Where it's all about having fun. When we have a trifecta three-way of fun, it's a beautiful thing. And when we bring the audience in, it's quattro fun. So, with that being said, we hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you're watching it on the tubes, very cool. There's also a Patreon page you guys can be getting this stuff on as well. Advanced early editions, you know what I mean? Like the news program. And if you are listening to the audio, we want better for you. We want better for you. If you're listening to just the audio, we want better for you. We want you to go on that Boombastic Media YouTube page and watch the video. You know what I mean? Watch the videos where it's at. And if you want to treat yourself a little extra special, which we think you should, you know what I mean? Little self-love to yourself. You catch that Patreon page at Boombastic Streaming. That's where you get all the early uncut episodes of podcasts, of all the shows, all the episodes of all the shows, and you even get yourself some Boombastic films up in there. It's a beautiful thing. You're looking to do a little acting, maybe some producing up in this Mo Trucker. You want to check out that Alex Hauck Patreon page. You know you got to do it. You know it feels right. And we just thank and appreciate everybody for watching and listening. Numbers are up all across the board, and we can't thank people enough for enjoying it. We love the show ourselves so much that we'd do it if there was just me and the Hawkman watching here. But the fact that other people are digging it, we're seeing the numbers, we're getting messages, people on the streets, not so much strangers, but people, we see out there roaming with us. Say, I caught that episode. I loved it. We really appreciate and love hearing that. And kudos to everybody. This is September we're in right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Everybody get ready for the holiday season. Much love. Shout out Samantha Newark. They work together on Summer Camp Nightmare. We got a little tidbit into that, but not too crazy. This is a great conversation, and I'm going to wrap it up now because I'm just going on and on and on and on. But much love to everybody for listening. Much love to Adam for being on the show. Much love to my co-host, the Hawkman, and much love to the universe. We're doing it big. We'll catch y'all on the next episode of the BoomBastiCAST. Peace.